case came in last week through the portal. It was a lower full arch. It was scanned just perfectly. The prescription filled out right. Every box, nothing missing. The kind of file that lands on the screen and tells you the doctor on the other end actually knows exactly what he's doing. And I opened it, I looked it over, and I caught myself doing something I didn't expect. I was waiting for that phone to ring. It didn't. There was no reason for it to. The case didn't need a call. Everything I needed was right there on the screen. That doctor had done his part, done it well, and moved to the next patient in a very efficient manner. And guys, that's how it's supposed to work now, right? That's the system working. And I sat there for a minute longer than I'd like to admit and contemplated. Because I've known this doctor a long time, and there was a time not very long ago that a case like this would have started with a phone call. Not so much because he needed the help, but because the case was never the real reason for why you would call. You see, a doctor would call and send me a case, and then 20 minutes later, we'd end up somewhere completely else. Maybe 4 of those minutes were actually talking about the prosthetic. The rest maybe was on the nervousness that he might have on this particular surgery. Whether the mill he was actually thinking about bringing into his office was worth the money and if the juice was worth the squeeze. Patient who was driving him nuts and he was asking me for my opinion. You see, sometimes it's business, sometimes it's life. That's what relationships are about, right? You see, the case was the excuse for the call. The conversation was my job. It's always been that. And I'm sitting here looking at this perfect file that needed nothing from me. And I'm realizing the one thing I built my entire career on, the one thing I was most proud of, the thing I've always told you guys that was my most important instrument. Well, it's getting quieter. That phone, that tool, it's slipping into this portal in a way that I didn't expect. And I don't entirely know what that means yet, but I know it's worth an hour of your time. So let's get into it. Welcome back to Margins of Meaning. I'm John Wilson, and this is episode 19. I'm so glad you're here. Guys, the last 2 episodes were a pair, even if I didn't say so at the time. 17 was about what you leave behind, the knowledge that lives in one set of hands and goes quiet when those hands stop working, right? 18 was about the case that I call easy, the single unit you stop looking twice at because most of the time it behaves, and how the standard slips right there on the small work where nobody is actually watching. This one is the same slip, just one step further out. Because in 18, the standard was slipping at the bench, on the case. Today, I want to talk about it's slipping somewhere else. Out past the bench, in the relationship, in the conversation that used to wrap around every case and lately doesn't always show up anymore. Now, I want to be careful here, like always, because there's an easy version of this episode, and it's not the one I'm here to make today. The easy version is an old man complaining that the phone doesn't ring like it used to, and that's not it. I'm not here to mourn the phone. The phone was never the point. The question I'm actually carrying is bigger than that, and I don't have a clean answer to it. So I'm going to be honest about that up front, the same way I was in 17. The question is this: what is the laboratory actually for? Not what does a laboratory make? We know what it makes. The question is, what is it for? And I think the answer to that is changing under our feet faster than most of us have stopped to notice. And I think if we don't name it, the trade is going to answer it for us. So let's get into it. So let me tell you what the phone actually was. Because if you came up the way I did, you already know it, but maybe if you're a bit newer with this, I need you to understand it was never just about the device. It was a way to really build something. You see, when I was young in this trade, I figured out pretty quick that the work got me in the door, but what kept me in the building was the talking. So I put in the reps. I learned to have clean answers. And when the doctor asked me something I didn't know, I didn't bluff. I didn't hide it. It was never fake it till you make it. I just told him I didn't know. And then I'd go make a plan to go and learn it. And then I'd come back when I had the answers, and that was the whole game, guys. Reps, honesty, and the callback. And somewhere in there, the calls stopped being about just the work. The relationship would build. The doctor would call and send a case in, and 20 minutes later, we would be talking about something completely off the mark. Might be about that surgery that he was nervous about, or maybe it was another expensive purchase that he was bringing into his office and he was worried that was going to be another expensive paperweight. Maybe it was about that crazy patient that was driving him nuts. Sometimes it was the practice. Sometimes it was maybe their marriage. Sometimes it was just the weight of running a small business that everybody assumes is easy because you're a doctor, right? And guys, on those calls, I wasn't just their technician. I was the guy that picked up the phone. And I'm going to say something here that's a little uncomfortable to say out loud, but I'm going to just say it. I really loved it. I loved being the call that somebody made when something got tough. I loved being handed a problem that nobody else wanted and finding a way and doing it well. And if I'm honest, there was a part of me that actually needed that. It gave the days some shape. It gave the work a reason. And it's close to what people mean when they say they feel like the hero of the thing. And I'm not going to pretend that I'm above that because I'm not. I loved it. And that was the phone. It was never just an instrument for moving cases. It was where I felt that I was most useful as a person, not just a pair of hands. And here's the part that matters for everything that comes next. None of this ever showed up on an invoice. Nobody billed for those 20 minutes. Nobody talked him off a ledge before the specific surgery. It was invisible. It was free. And it was, without any question, the most valuable thing I did all day. So now we're at the portal. Let's be very clear about something, because this is where the conversation usually goes off the rails. I'm not against the portal or digital or any of the new modern technology. It's been my relevance and I love it. I don't want to be that guy who thinks it was always easier when we used to pour our own impressions and the young people just don't get it, because that doesn't make sense. You see, the younger doctors and younger technicians coming up right now are good. Really good. A lot of them are fluent in tools my generation had to claw our way into, one painful upgrade at a time. They can scan and design and print and mill, and they manufacture things that used to take a whole support team standing around one bench to do. And I look at that and I don't feel threatened at all. I feel something closer to relief. The work that nearly broke me is getting easier for the people behind me, and that's not a tragedy. That's the whole point. That's progress. But progress has a way of turning the lights on in a room you thought you understood. Because here's what happens when making the easy things get easy. The predictable things get automated. The repeatable things turn into commodities. And one by one, all the parts of this job I used to get paid for are starting to slide closer to lower and lower margins. So you have to ask yourself the question, if the costs keep falling, then where does the value go? doesn't disappear, right? Value never just disappears, it moves. And I think it moves towards the things that maybe the machines can't do. They never can do. It moves towards the judgment, the judgment that the eye sees before a problem becomes a problem. It moves towards partnership. The person on the other end of the case who actually is invested in how it turns out. It moves towards accountability, somebody willing to own that outcome when the software runs out of the answers and the case is still sitting there waiting for you to figure it out. You see, dentistry was never just about the products. It wasn't about the implants or the scanners, the printers or the mills. Those are just things. Things we point at because they're easy to see and easy to bill for. Underneath all of it, this trade is always run on one thing. And that thing is trust. And that's the part the portal can't carry. Portal is this beautiful thing, moving cases. It's precise, it's fast. It doesn't lose your impression in the mail, but there's no field or on that form, no checkbox that says, hey, the doctor's scared of this surgery on Thursday. There's no drop down for, hey, I'm over my head. I don't know what to do with my staff. There's no checkbox for the talk me through this. I just need to hear it from somebody that has actually done it 1,000 times. The portal took that part that was always a commodity, the part I probably should have charged more for early. But what it can't do, what it can't touch is the conversation. And I believe the conversation, like I told you, was always the actual job. So now I have to turn this around because so far it's been a little too comfortable for me. I've been describing a world where the machine takes the cheap stuff and leaves me holding the valuable stuff. And if I stop there, this whole episode is just a long way of telling you why I'm going to be fine. That would be a lie, or at least it would be the half of it that makes me look good. So here's the other half. Even with my best clients, the ones I've had for years, the ones I genuinely care about, who send me beautiful records and trust me with their hardest cases, even with them, I've caught myself letting it drift. Case comes in clean, I treat it like it's clean, and I move through it. I don't pick up the phone, not because the relationship died, because it got comfortable. Because we've done it 1,000 times together, and somewhere along the way, I decided this one didn't need a call. I decided it was easy. You hear that? That's episode 18 again, guys. That's the exact same slip. In 18, it was the case I stopped looking twice at. 19, it's the conversation I stopped having. Maybe it's the same disease, just a different room. The standard doesn't usually break in some dramatic way. It erodes one easy decision at a time. On the days you're busy, the cases look routine and nobody's going to notice if you skip the part that was never on the invoice anyways. And here's the hard truth. The portal didn't do that to me. The portal just made it easier to do it to myself. The technology didn't take the conversations away. It gave me permission to stop starting it. There's a difference. And the difference is on me, not on the software. So if I'm going to sit here and tell you the value in this conversation, well, if I don't let my own conversations quietly go transactional, I just become the tool that made it convenient. That's the work. Not complaining that the phone is quiet, but maybe picking it up when there's no reason on the lab slip to pick it up. So where does that really leave us? I'm going to be honest, I don't know. I'm not going to hand you a tidy little answer because that's what you deserve, because that's not the case here. I don't know how this lands. I'm going to tell you the truth. The calls are fewer than they used to be. And maybe the ones that remain are better, deeper, more like the real thing than ever before, because the portal now has stripped away the noise and only left the part of the conversations that actually matter. That sounds like good news, and some days it actually is. But fewer and better is not the same as enough. I can be more valuable in every single conversation I have and still have a business problem if there's not enough conversations to go around. I don't have that math worked out yet. I'm not sure anybody does yet. And the truth is anybody that tells you they got the next 10 years of this trade figured out is trying to sell you something, and you already know how I feel about that. So I'm not going to stand here and promise you the phone is coming back. It might not. The form of the thing I built my life around might really be slipping away. And I think the honest move is to let that be true and not flinch from it. But here's the one thing I am sure of, and it's enough to keep me at the bench. The making is going to keep getting cheaper. The tools are going to keep getting better. More of what we do is going to move to the portal, and that's fine. But there's no version of this trade, not one, where a human being stops needing another human being on the other end when the plan falls apart. The technology can handle the case that goes right. It never once handled the case that goes wrong. And those are the ones that matter, guys. Those are the ones somebody remembers for the rest of their career. So I don't have the whole answer, but what I do have is conviction. As long as there are people in this profession trying to do hard things, there will be room for the person who picks up the phone, owns the outcome, and helps them get through the part that nobody could have planned for. I've built my whole life on that idea that communication is the most important tool in this laboratory. I'm watching the shape of that tool change in real time, and I don't know what it becomes next. But I'm not putting it down. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Find the conversation the portal can't have, guys. Then go have it. Protect your margins. Protect your meaning. Thank you for listening to episode 19 of Margins of Meaning. If this one hit a nerve, do something with it. Call one client this week for no reason that shows up on the lab slip. Not to sell them anything, just to have a conversation the portal would never have started for you. This has been John Wilson for Margins and Meaning, and remember, protect your margins. Protect your meaning. Thank you.